Well, it's been about a year since GM announced their new full-size SUVs. It took them a little while after the 2019 pickup trucks came out. We featured both the Silverado and the GMC Sierra when they were first launched pretty much 2 years ago now. And here we are with the 2021 full-size SUVs from General Motors. Our spotlight is on this 2021 GMC Yukon Denali. This is the short wheelbase version. The Yukon XL is the extended wheelbase. Now this is a new platform and new generation. Shares the same platform that we saw again on the GMC Sierra, and it is quite a bit bigger than the outgoing Yukon. If you needed more space, this might be the one to go with. 4.9 inches longer for the wheelbase over the previous generation, and 6.1 inches longer overall with this new 2021. The third row is where you get the biggest interior improvements, up to 10.1 inches of rear legroom over the previous model, and an extra 10 cubic feet of cargo space if you've got the third row active, 28 cubic feet more if you fold it flat. So it's a lot of cargo, a lot of passenger space, and the overall vehicle has gotten quite a bit bigger. Now, if you go with the XL, those improvements are still there, but not quite as much. So this vehicle does see the biggest improvements. And then if you go with the XL, it actually isn't a whole lot longer now than this. They've improved it a little bit. They've added more to the wheelbase and the overall length, but not quite as much as you get with the standard Yukon. Now, our test vehicle here is very well equipped at $92,448 Canadian. The equivalent in the US with the same packaging and options would be $82,985 US. We have $12,650 in options on here. $8,320 just for the Denali Ultimate package, which adds quite a bit of stuff, including the Advanced Technology package, panoramic sunroof, power side steps, the Max trailering package, rear seat media, and the premium capacity package with active response four-wheel drive. This has an air ride suspension, not the same that we saw before when it came to GM's magnetic ride, and not the same as we saw on the Cadillac CT5V a little while ago. This is a different system, and honestly, when you're driving it on the road, I can't tell the difference between this and the Cadillac Escalade that we drove before. Now, the tech package adds active cruise control, emergency automatic braking, the rear camera mirror, which we've seen on Cadillac products, and has a washer for that as well, so it doesn't get gunked up in the winter like we have here, and the advanced security package. Quite a bit of stuff going on there, probably well worth it if you're going for the best of the best. Now, we also have a $4,165 set of 22-inch 6-spoke low-gloss black rims. Whether you need it, that's up to you. I think it looks really good on this SUV, but it's a big cost. We do usually find a number of different rim options for their full-size vehicles and pickup trucks. This is pretty pricey, but pretty much in line with what you could get both on the Cadillac brand and on this GMC. So whether you want to spend the $4,000 on it or not is up to you. We also have the $165 GMC emblems that display from the mirrors when you're getting into it. It's like puddle light. So it's another small option you could get on this. Now, us here in Canada, we only get one configuration when it comes to the fully loaded Denali. You can only get it in four-wheel drive, and you can only get it with the 6.2-liter V8 engine. That produces 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. Should be a pretty familiar number to you if you're from the full-size GM pickup world, and also uses a 10-speed automatic transmission. In the US, you can get the two-wheel drive version, and you can also option the 3-liter Duramax turbo diesel engine over this. So a couple extra options down there. We are a smaller market, so it makes sense that we have limited options up here. Now, what else can I tell you about this 2021 GMC Yukon Denali? Well, me personally, I prefer the look of this generation GMC over the new generation Chevrolet. The Tahoe, Suburban, and Silverado, I mean, they've got a different look to it. Some people really do like it. As far as I'm concerned, it's an acquired taste. So either you love it or you hate it. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I feel it just didn't translate as well onto their SUVs. And again, I'm not a huge fan of it even on the pickup truck, but I find that the GMC is a lot more reserved. It looks similar to what was before, a generation before this, both for the Yukon and the Sierra, but I think that this has a really nice look to it. And as far as I'm concerned, you got to pay the premium to go up to this to get a better looking vehicle. And even compared to the Escalade, which we're going to be featuring next week, this might be the one to go with. So stay tuned if you're interested in this price point, in this segment. We'll see how the Cadillac Escalade compares to this, because you do get a lot of the technology that we saw on the previous generation now available on this. So there's still an incentive to go up to the new Escalade, but maybe the GMC will do the trick. But I like the look of it. It looks great. Proportions are pretty good as well. Personally, I would take the extended vehicle, the XL, just because I feel the overall proportions make a little bit more sense with that vehicle. But if you need a full-size 3-row, 8-passenger vehicle, this is a pretty good option. Now, because this is a full tour and review, and we have not featured the Yukon before, we are going to be going inside, talking about the features and everything there first, sitting in the back seats and the third row, and then we will take it on a winter road test. So let's hop inside, we'll warm up a little bit and see what's going on with the interior of the 2021 GMC Yukon Denali. Now, if you were to go back to watch the video we featured on the 2019 GMC Sierra Denali, I pretty much was disappointed with the vehicle. It was a new pickup truck, new generation, but the interior was pretty much a carryover from the previous generation. And I know, okay, they changed some of the buttons a little bit, but for the most part, it was the same truck. The outside got a bit of an update. The inside, small update, even though it was a new generation, and it was just kind of meh. When it comes to this, it's a different interior from the regular Yukon. The Denali gets a specific setup. First of all, the infotainment system here is actually built into the dashboard, whereas if you go with pretty much any other trim for the Yukon, it's more of a tablet that sits on top. Very similar in design to what we saw with the Genesis G70, sort of a trapezoid design, whereas this is built in. You've got your controls for the drive selector right beside it. I know some people might not like it, but it is in the same setup as if you still had a column shifter, park up top, drive at the bottom. Maybe it takes a little bit getting used to, but we've seen it across the board for GMC's vehicles. It is in a different position, but I do like it. The infotainment screen is 10.2 inches, comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, along with SiriusXM and built-in navigation. From this, you can also control the rear seat media systems, much more improved over the Cadillac Escalade that we drove before. This is pretty close to BMW territory in terms of the look and feel of the system, and it's still not quite as functional as you would get with, say, a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz, but the backseat passengers have the options to listen to music or watch video through USB or HDMI, and they can also see the map and even set navigation points from the back seat. So if you're being driven around in this, you're an executive type of person or somebody with some money and you've got a driver for you, you will appreciate the second row much more than on the previous generation. So those infotainment systems back there, pretty cool overall. You have a 15-inch color head-up display. Great information there. I just find it's not quite as bright as we would like to find in the segment. I have turned up the brightness as far as it goes, and it's pretty much where it is, but it works well. And then you don't have a full digital gauge cluster. That's more or less reserved for the Cadillac Escalade, but you still have a good amount of information available from what we've seen on other GM vehicles before. The rear view monitor, great to have. You can clean it with a push of a button. So if you're living where you are here, where you have a lot of snow, you can clean it off without having to actually get out of the vehicle. So I find it works very well. It is the updated system with better color, better overall resolution, and some functionalities to be able to adjust the camera itself. We have wood grain trim throughout the interior. This is the black interior leather. You can have 4 different color options on the inside here, 4 different themes, as GMC calls it. Personally, I do like some color on here. So even though I like the black paint on this, I would go with sort of the dark brown that they have on the inside for this. I think it would look a lot nicer. But aside from that, all the features that you would really want to have, like wireless phone charging, home link, LED interior lighting, panoramic sunroof, and a 14-speaker Bose audio system are all present on this vehicle. GM also says you can get up to 8 USB ports on this vehicle, depending on how you configure it, which is great. If you've got a lot of devices that you need to charge, you've got the options for it, including USB-C in the front for the occupants. Front seats are heat, ventilated, and power. Rear seats, in the second row, it's only outboard heated. It would have been nice to have ventilation on there, but I believe that is something reserved for the Escalade. And there is a new optional center power sliding console. It's not on this one. You have to go with the second row captain's chairs in order to use it, but GM says it'll move up to 10 inches back and forth, power operated with a hidden compartment underneath. So if you want to put maybe some small valuables under there and hide it away, you can do so. I'm hoping to be able to get another GMC Yukon in the summer. They said they might be able to option it by then. But let's jump into the second row now. We'll see how the space is back there, and then we'll get into the third so that you are better informed if you're in the market for the 2021 GMC Yukon Denali. The second row of a full-size SUV is often the most important place to be. This is where the people who are buying this to be driven around in are going to be spending all of their time. But also, if you're like me, you've got kids. They want to be able to have something to enjoy themselves with in the back. So these rear screen entertainment systems do work out pretty well. They are adjustable. You can move them up and down, and it's a pretty big size overall. There are some touch controls, so you do have to get used to it a little bit by going into the menu and reading the actual owner's manual to see how to flip things around, but they work pretty well. Controls are easy to get to. You've got USB and HDMI pretty accessible, plus all the controls for HVAC settings, plus roof-mounted vents up top. Panoramic sunroof lets in enough light, and overall the legroom here is pretty good. Now the seats are as far back as possible. When I get into the third row, I will adjust this so that I would be comfortable both here and in the back seat so that we could see how it is, but for the most part, you're getting what you would want out of a full-size SUV. The only thing is I am pretty much at the limit here for my head. If I were to sit up straight, I am pretty much touching the roof. So keep that in mind. Headroom might not be as good as you would expect in the second row. Still great for smaller people if you've got children or teenagers, whatever it may be, or you've got some smaller adults you want to fit back there, not necessarily somebody as massive as me. So jump into that third row, see how useful it really is. Well, I hope you're using USB-C, because back here, that's all you get. There's two USB-C ports on either side of the back seat here. Now, to be fair, to get in here, it's not the easiest. It's also not the worst. I mean, we've driven a number of vehicles with 3 rows, and I was a little bit more graceful to be able to get into the back seat here. But you'll see, maybe on the video, depending on how it's set up, the third row here, it's a little bit forward compared to the second seat here, the individual seat, as this is a 60-40 split, or more like a 30-70. The point is, though, the right side, that was as far as I would go comfortably, and there's maybe about 2 inches that this can still go up if need be. And I actually have quite a bit of legroom back here. I would say, 3-4 inches of legroom. Actually, the headroom is almost better than it was in the front. I've got a couple inches up top. I've got armrest cup holders, everything I would kind of need if I'm the last man standing back here. You do have lights and air vents, so for the most part, it's okay. 3 people back here like me, not happening, but if you really did need to put 2 large adults, you could do it in the third row. And then there is a button to be able to flip this up. Just push the button and it gets more or less out of your way for you. You can just move it out of the way to get out. So if you need maximum storage capacity back here, then you can do it this way, but honestly, it's not that bad. Let's hit the road, though. Let's take this vehicle on a road test to see how the 2021 GMC Yukon Denali really performs both in the winter and as a family hauling full-size SUV. One of the things that I feel that we've really excelled at over the past couple of years is doing winter driving tests. And as much as I have been hoping for some snow, we just haven't gotten it. And it's very strange. I personally hate the snow. I hate when it snows. I hate being out in the snow. But it's obviously good for testing, and today's about it. We were supposed to have snow all week, pretty much non-stop the entire week, and this is kind of it. So it's not much. It's certainly nothing to be able to actually test this GMC Yukon in, but it gives us at least something to talk about. How does this vehicle compare to what we've driven? How does it do in the snow? And everything else about it. Well, first of all, below you'll see our fuel economy testing. We did that independently, as we always do. Now, there's no real eco mode on this vehicle, so we just had it in regular, normal mode for the drive system, as well as automatic mode for the 4-wheel drive, because it was a little wet on our original test for that. Winter tire specs are also below. These are monstrous 22-inch rims. I don't necessarily recommend getting the big rims for the winter here. If you can go down a couple inches, get the smallest rim size with the thickest tire, you'll have a much better experience. But so far, these have been working pretty well. Again, we can't really test anything, we can't show you anything as we're driving along here, but so far it has worked out well. And if you've watched any of the videos that we've done on pickup trucks in the winter, most recently being the 2021 Ram 1500, I said that I'm not a huge fan of driving pickup trucks in the winter because there's no weight in the bed for that rear-wheel drive vehicle to be able to perform properly. Even though this uses pretty much the same chassis and drive system as the, for example, GMC Sierra 1500 Denali, this has much more weight on the back because There's a passenger compartment there. It's also a much shorter vehicle. The wheelbase is much shorter than you would get on the pickup truck, so there's more weight on those rear wheels. This works much better in the snow. So I'm a lot happier driving something like this. This thing is heavy, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Obviously, the right winter tires do make a difference, so that's always important to have, and then driving smart when you're doing so. Now, this has been a great week. I love driving big trucks like this, big SUVs. It's just, there's tons of room. It's super comfortable. It's quiet in here. Everything is nice. And I'm enjoying this a lot because there is a reason now to go up to this Denali over the regular trim. Aside from all the nice features and everything, now that it does have a unique interior, looks a lot better than the regular Yukon. Plus, it looks better than the Tahoe or Suburban. But the ride on this has been great so far. I did mention outside that it's pretty hard to tell the difference between this adaptive air suspension and GM's outgoing magnetic ride control that was on something like the Cadillac Escalade. You know, maybe you could tell a little bit of a difference. Again, you'd have to really drive them back to back to get the best idea of how they do compare. You're still getting a superb ride. Maybe it's not quite as smooth. Maybe you feel a little bit more of the bumps. I noticed going over something like the train tracks we're going to hit in 2 seconds, you feel it a little bit more. A little bit. Yeah, on the camera you shouldn't have seen much, and our system now, our camera is weighed down a little bit with the microphone attached to it, so what you're seeing might be a little bit different than what I'm actually experiencing. But the ride on this is great. The interior road noise, you can barely hear anything outside. The road is pretty quiet. The tires, even though these are winter tires because they're good, you don't hear much of that. Everything's really nice. Even the windows. I mean, the windows are so silent when they open and close. It's a nice thing. So there's a lot of good going on with the Yukon Denali. I really enjoy it. I've been enjoying a lot of my time in this vehicle. Everything works. I love it. It's pretty much what you would want out of a, like I said, full-size truck. Are you missing features from the Escalade? Absolutely. Are you missing features from the other consumer vehicles? Yeah, I don't think so. The only thing that's annoying, it's annoyed me quite a bit, and we've experienced it before with other GM vehicles for the 2021 model year. If you've got the fog lights on, the IntelliBeam, the automatic high beams, do not engage. So you have to physically turn off your fog lights, which is a pain in the butt. And I know a couple people have commented, it is true, here in Canada and in the United States, it is illegal, it is unlawful to drive with both your high beams, headlights, and fog lights on. All three, 6 bulbs essentially, are illuminated. That is against the law, but pretty much every single car I've driven just automatically turns off the fog lights when those high beams come on. So not sure why GM's doing this with their vehicles. That's the only annoyance. Aside from that though, I've had pretty much no complaints about this. It's worked exactly the way that I wanted it to. The comfort on here, unmatched. When it comes to full-size vehicles, this is the one that you want. The seats are nice and comfortable. You've got tons of space, tons of control. I'm seated in a really good position here. I've got my bucket in the way that I can kind of just sink into it. Easy entry, easy exit, 2 memory options. Pretty much everything is there. The only thing I'd maybe like to see in terms of an interior feature would be side window sunshades. About that though, that's it. I mean, everything that you would want at this price point is here. Is it a luxury SUV? No, this doesn't compare at all to the BMW X7 that we featured, but it is very comparable to other big SUVs. Ford Expedition is the first that comes to mind, and now we're going to be seeing how the new Jeep Grand Wagoneer, I guess technically it's the Wagoneer brand, we'll see how that compares, because it looks like it's going to be pretty nice as well. But if you're in the market for $92,000 worth of SUV, you'll be very happy with it. As always, if you have any questions about this episode, about the vehicle itself, or anything that we do here on Test Drive, please leave a comment below. I do my best to get back to everybody who takes the time to leave a comment on our videos, whether it's a new video or not. I do try to get to everybody. If you haven't done so already, I highly suggest and invite you to subscribe to our channel. You'll be able to get the latest episodes that we do on a weekly basis as soon as they come out, and hit the notification button to get notified so you know when the newest one is available. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.